Hear the unspoken words, the inside scoop. This is the interview with G, beyond the surface. Today we got my brother, man, a very special guest to me. The man with many titles, a businessman, the author, the tattoo artist, and so much more, man. Please welcome Dennis Dizzy Doan. All right, brother, man. First of all, I want to appreciate you for supporting this. Like, you helped me with the logo. You helped me with a lot of stuff behind the scene that no one knows. And I want the audience to get to know you more, to be more inspired and motivated by your story. So I want to bring you here today.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. So let's kick it off. How long have you been tattooing?
It's been probably about 19 years now. I started
19?
I started when I was 15 years old at home. Started working at a shop when I was 18 and then opened my first shop when I was 20.
Wow. How did you have that mind state at such a young age?
Well, when I was younger, my mom left when I was really young, so me and my dad were pretty much struggling, just the two of us, and I felt left out of a lot of things that my friends were doing, going to the mall, watching movies, things like that, struggling for food. So I took it upon myself to try to do what I could. I was, trying to fix cars. I was washing cars. I was cutting hair. And then I got into tattooing. It was just spontaneous because I actually wanted to get tattooed, but I couldn't afford it.
Mm.
So I was like, all right, let's just try this out and see what happens. Because I've always been an artist since I was little, but I had never envisioned it as a career path. Because Asian household, that wasn't even something you can speak up on.
How did you get into it? Were you like tracing stuff, or like how did you start? Like,
When I started, it wasn't really a popular thing yet. It was taboo still. So a lot of it was just looking at tattoo magazines, things like that, trying to get inspired by that. Looking at the artwork on the walls in Asian households. There were a few Asian tattoo artists at the time that I used to look up to, and we would try to replicate what they did, their style, try to see why and how they did it. But those were the only resources we had. There was maybe a few DVDs out there that you could watch, but there wasn't like YouTube tutorials or anything like that yet, so you just had to trial and error the whole thing.
you started drawing before tattooing, right?
Yeah.
What did you use to draw? Like, what were your first pieces that you felt like, oh shit, I could draw, type of thing?
When I was little, I used to draw a lot of like, scenery, landscape, things like that. And then all my classes growing up, I used to always be the dude that does the charts and all that.
Yeah.
I designed some stuff for Kearney High School when I went there, like their T-shirts, things like
Oh,
that.
that's dope.
I did get a job offer to work on some shoes that Baby Bash was trying to release when I was 15 years old, but that job was up in like Orange County, so I couldn't take it. But yeah, I mean, I think I progressed as an artist, parallel to my path as a tattoo artist. I wasn't like super good at drawing, and then started tattooing. I was just kind of getting better as I went. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, would you say if the new generation trying to draw or tattoo like how you did, would would you say there's a lot of obstacles that you learned or you made mistakes in, or what could you say to inspire them to have that mind state like you?
I think I always tell everybody it's really back when I started, it was really hard to get in the game, but it was easy to stand out because there wasn't many of us. You know what I mean? Especially being Asian, I was one of few. Especially in San Diego, there were only like 3 Vietnamese tattoo artists,
Yeah, that
and
was.
and nowadays it's really easy to get in the business, but really hard to stand out because there's so many.
Mm-hmm.
Which is I'm lucky because I'm kind of grandfathered in. I already have my clientele. I all my clients I acquired through word of mouth and just hustling on the street for these clients. Whereas now, a lot of artists now think they can just do some work, put it out there, and then hopefully something, it baits clients into it or something. But
Yeah.
you need to combine that philosophy of hard work, getting to know your clients, actually caring about their lives, what they do, rather than seeing them as a dollar sign. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Customer service is always the way to go. I think that's the main flaw in a lot of people in every industry nowadays that come into it, because they have a lot of expectation, and when they don't, when the situation doesn't meet the expectation, they get disappointed. But it's not the fault of the consumer; is your own fault for
Hmm.
not going the extra mile. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So that's kind of like, let's just say this podcast, it
Mm-hmm.
looks real simple, right? But I know you sat there and saw us put everything together behind the scene to make
Mm-hmm.
to make it look like this, to make it work. Yeah, it's actually like a lot of work to this, but I'm willing to take that foot forward and build the platform to help the next generation. So
Mm-hmm.
just like you, brother.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
give us a round of applause for that, bro. Hey, as long as I've known him, I've always felt like this vibe where he's a hustler, he's a grinder, he goes out there to get it. Did you first start it like at working on in somebody else's shop or at home, or how did you start your tattoo career?
I started working in my apartment in my room. So I couldn't get a job because I had a record. So I always start off by telling people that, I was really trying to get a regular job. I walked to Target from my house like for 3 interviews, got denied, and then a bunch of other jobs. So I just gave up at that point, just took it into my own hands and did what I knew how to do with my hands. And I pretty much went all in. I took out my bed from my room. I took out everything. So I
Mhm.
put a massage table in there. I slept on it, and I just tattooed in there every day at like midnight, early in the morning. Whenever my dad wasn't home from work, I was tattooing, or if he was sleeping.
Were you nervous on the first couple of people that you did, like since you just started?
I wouldn't say I was nervous. I kind of put it in the back of my mind. 'Cause I started on myself, so I tattooed like both my legs myself,
For
and
real?
then yeah,
Oh shit.
and then my first client was actually my cousin from France that came to visit, and he was like, "Oh, you should do one on me." I'm like, "All right." So we picked a little Chinese symbol out of a book, and I tattooed it on his chest.
Yeah.
And then I tattooed my other cousin and so forth.
How big was it?
It was like 2-3 inches.
Oh, okay.
But then I blasted a big dragon on my cousin's arm after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you after you finish tattooing somebody, do you get a excitement or a relief that the art is finished?
Mm, that's hard to say. I think I enjoy the journey more than the result.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Um, I get bored of things easily.
Mm.
So by the time we hit like 90%, I'm just like, okay, I'm pretty much done. It's just finishing touches and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen your tattoos getting a lot better, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, how did you come up with the concept or idea of Black Lotus?
So Black Lotus tattoo plays off of the White Lotus Society back then in China.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the rebellion and stuff, but I want to do something different, so we went with Black Lotus. But it plays off of that specific time in history because we're known as more of the rebellious, faction of society.
Yeah. Okay. And then outside of, let's say, tattoo and business, right? Do you think it's important to have education?
I do. Where that education comes from is um, is up for debate. I think that you can learn just as much without going to college, with the training of technical skills, trade schools, things like that. But I mean, I went to college. I had a full ride scholarship, San Diego State. I went for 2 years and I dropped out because it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to be a plastic surgeon, but after all the fluff of college, like the general ed, all that, I just got tired of it, and I told myself, well, okay, right now I need money, you know. So dropped out, got my neck tattooed that same day. Told myself I wouldn't go back.
Who tattooed your neck?
My old boss.
Your old boss.
Mhm.
Where was the shop at? Or
I was over on Park in Lincoln.
oh, okay,
Hmm.
okay, okay. And then since I asked you about education, I attended your last event where you fundraised for kids and their school or something. Could you
Yeah.
speak about that more?
So my foundation, the Doan Foundation, we focus on providing aid to kids in marginalized communities, the low income, minorities for the most part that need all the help they can get to higher education in order for them to pursue their career in the arts, whether it's barbering, um, acting, fine art, whatever it may be. Because growing up in the hood, we never really provide that option for them. Everyone's always getting on us about getting a job right away, or you got to be an engineer or a lawyer or a doctor or something. You know, and especially nowadays, I think it's a really viable career path. And even if it's not, at least they can experience it and know it's not for them, rather than thinking they didn't fulfill their passion their whole lives based on the lack of funds or something. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. So, like when I was in high school, starting like the college years, but I didn't go to college, but around those years, like my family asked me, so what do I want to do? That was like the hardest thing to answer for them, for me, because in my head I wanted to do music, I wanted to do this, but in their head is like they want me to be a doctor, they want me to have this, have that, but like some people they have a game plan, so they go to school for exactly that thing.
Mhm.
I didn't really have that game plan in my head because I wanted to be something else and I didn't
Yeah.
know how to get it through school.
Mhm.
So it was a really tough decision. Um, so I know a lot of other kids they're going through the same thing right now. Like they don't know what to choose. And so how did you make the decision to be a full-time tattoo artist in that time?
I think it was just financial need was the main motivation, but I feel like I guess you could say the shame that we feel in pursuing artistic careers, it just comes down to societal pressure, family pressure, things like that, because they raise you to think a certain way about yourself and about society. So you grow up thinking, okay, people with tattoos are bad, and they went to prison, whatever it may be. But they never take the time to one change the stigma or try to see the stigma in a different way. As time progresses. So I think most of the guilt and shame we feel from not pursuing our family's dreams is just based on what we get taught from the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think people's opinions about tattoos changed since when you started and now?
Yeah, because when I started tattooing, this was like right when Miami Ink and all those shows were starting to come out.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I kind of just rode the wave. I got lucky because when I started when I was 15, it wasn't there yet. So as Hollywood kind of shine a light on it, it became a little more acceptable, around the world. Whereas before, it was kind of like no one paid no mind to it, right? Um, but yeah, it definitely helped the exposure, and the fact that they don't make it look like criminal activity on TV.
Yeah.
And I think it changed for most of like the regular American society, but in Asian culture, it's still kind of there on the verge of taboo, but not so much.
Yeah.
So I've been trying really hard to break into that field and change people's minds a little bit.
Yeah. It's definitely more normalized now, not like all the way, but it's getting closer to there.
Yeah.
It's almost there. It's definitely more normalized now. As a busy man as you are, you have a lot of responsibilities. how did you get inspired to throw that event for those kids going to school?
So in 2022, this is years later. Like I said earlier, I was really poor growing up, so my vision has just been, straightforward since. So I never really took the time to look beside me to see like where I'm really going or the journey that took me there. You know what I mean? So I bought, I was going to expensive restaurants, buying expensive cars, things like that, and bought my house. Whereas back then I didn't even think about living in a place with a garage or anything. And after I achieved all that already, just everything that people told me I wouldn't achieve, I just kind of looked at myself in the mirror like, what am I doing with this? So I decided to start a nonprofit. So one day I literally just woke up. I told my wife, like, I think I'm gonna start a nonprofit. She's like, all right, go ahead. So I put in the paperwork and I did it. And originally it was supposed to be just me putting aside some money to help these kids.
This was 2022?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, keep going.
Yeah. But then one of my wife's good friends, he's been in the nonprofit sector for a while. He's like, if you're going to keep it small, why do it at all? You know what I mean? So I was like, all right. So I went full force. So connected with a bunch of businesses, a bunch of donors, people, and I never really realized how much support I've gotten over the years through like my clients and my friends and everything. And it's crazy how many people showed up, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be basically the person that brings all these businesses together to make giving like a thing that's a requirement, something that we're obligated to do, as a community for the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because before, it sucks to say, but a lot of the Asian nonprofits, like no one really took them seriously because one, they're not really trying to involve themselves with other communities, and two, it's just they keep it to themselves, right? So I was trying to establish something where everyone can come together, whether you're Asian, Hispanic, Black, whatever it is, and kind of break through the industry. And basically, I just wanted people to take it seriously, as a
Yeah.
community,
Yeah.
and to establish some type of legacy for my family. My parents came over here with nothing, never bought a house. Um, they basically just worked their whole lives, you know what I mean, and just try to raise me and my brother. So I was like, all right, if there's a mark that my family could leave in this world before I go, I want to do something, extraordinary.
Okay. Um, Last year when I went, it was not only that you guys helped the next generation that's like in the education, but also like a lot of businesses they got to network with each other.
Hmm.
So it was really dope, bro. Like
Yeah,
we appreciate that.
yeah. So
And
that's one of the main things is, a lot of these businesses they're in competition with each other, not knowing that they can help one another.
exactly, yeah.
But at the end of the day, we all need each other somehow. So to give a place or a platform where all these businesses, government officials, educators, law enforcement, whatever, connect and basically see each other as people rather than whatever they are,
Hmm.
it makes a difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't realize you was a singer too, cause at the
Yeah.
end of the event you started singing, bro.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, he got a voice, he had the notes and everything, bro.
Yeah, I used to be a wedding singer back
Oh,
then.
really?
Yeah, when I
Oh,
was like
damn.
13.
So you can hit it right now. If we paid you for our wedding.
No, I'm sick. I'm sick.
Oh, you're sick. All right, man. Are you gonna have another of those events this year?
Yeah, we're doing on May 25th. We got Raquel.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
In a Dream.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we got Raquel coming from New York, and then we got One Voice coming from the Bay Area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so for the first time, they're gonna be performing on the same stage, pretty much.
that's what's
Um,
up.
yeah, I wanted to bring a little bit of the old school and kind of do things people have never done. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these nonprofits, it's really predictable. So every year I want to bring something different to bring different types of people together, you know?
Mm-hmm. Do you have like a goal or a number or something that you want to reach when you do these events?
So my ultimate goal, I mean, these past 2 years have just been fundraising just to sustain our organization and um, contribute to the scholarships. So last year we gave away 10 scholarships, and this year we did 12. But the 12 have higher amounts too. So eventually, I want to get into programming, where the main thing I want to do is some type of seminars for these kids where they can show up like once every quarter and talk to a graphic designer or a studio engineer or a barber or something, like a day in the life type deal, so they know what they're getting into before they make the jump to get into the career. Because half the time, if you notice, a lot of these kids going to college now, they go in and they spend 4 years there and they really still don't know what they want to do because they've never had the experience of doing it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And they wasted all that time for nothing. So at least they'll know what they're getting into and they can either turn away or dive right in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think that's important. And then I do want to work with kids from juvenile hall as well and give them some type of way out, some way to start over, whether it's doing an art gallery for them to put their work in or something, so people can donate to them. So when they get out, they can have a fresh start. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So if a business or person want to sponsor or donate, how do they go about that?
The easiest way is go on doanfoundation.org. So it's going to be DOAN-foundation.org. And they can donate that way. They can Zelle, they can PayPal. All the information is on there, so they should be able to get it.
Okay. So his next event is going to be on May 25th. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be successful like last year. Last year was big. It was fun, good vibes. And you said you helped out 10 kids or
Yeah, last year was 10 kids. This year's 12.
oh, nice. Hell yeah. And
Yeah.
any amount will help, bro. Like
Yeah.
so that's good.
hmm
Um, how important do you think carrying on the culture and tradition is?
I think it's really important because I don't know if I told you this, but for the longest time growing up, I grew up in elementary school with a mixture of kids. There was maybe a handful of Vietnamese, and we used to get made fun of all the time. And then it got to a point where it made me feel ashamed sometimes to be Vietnamese. Like I wouldn't want to go to inside the Vietnamese supermarket with my parents and things like that because, I mean, Linda Vista was like it started out really Vietnamese in the '90s, and then as it progressed, it became more Hispanic, black, and everything. So it was weird, man. So I kind of had like an identity crisis, and I didn't know what to do. And then your music actually, it made me proud to be Vietnamese, like you and Ty. So I went from bumping Tupac or whatever to bumping your stuff, and eventually in high school I was able to come to terms with the fact that I'm not just Vietnamese, but I can be a mixture of both and still be proud to be Vietnamese. And then now looking at the next generation, I see that it's getting lost. So I feel the need to step up. So, for instance, I have a cousin that came here from Vietnam when he was 13, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he moved to Chula Vista. He doesn't even understand Vietnamese no more
Mm-hmm.
or speak it, right?
How long has that been?
It's been a minute, like
Okay.
18, 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, but like a lot of kids now that I see that are Asian, they don't speak their own language. They don't want to get involved with anything to do with their culture. Um, it's just becoming a normal thing. You know what I mean? And it's hard to. I work with a lot of nonprofits and help them out and try to collaborate with them too, and they're all struggling too because whether it's like traditional dance or just traditional customs, they're having trouble getting kids involved. So eventually they're gonna die off. So I think it's really important that we do things like this, like podcasts, and I think it's really important that you keep making the music. I think it's really important that people that have been through similar position as those kids are in now speak up and basically help them preserve that mindset.
Do you, how often do you speak Vietnamese? Do you speak Vietnamese around the household or to
Yeah,
anybody or your family?
yeah, I'm fluent.
Okay.
Yeah, because my parents don't speak English, so I kind of had to, you know.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Before, when I was young, I didn't like to go to the stores and stuff with my mom because every time when we buy something, bro, like when we get to the cash register, she wants me to bargain with them. Like,
Okay.
hey, can we buy this for? I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
we can't just ask them what we could buy for this, you know.
Yeah.
So I felt the same way you felt, and they didn't understand nothing. So it was kind of embarrassing sometimes too, like just the
Yeah.
way they think and act.
Yep.
It's not American, so it's like,
Yeah.
you know. So I felt that all the way. But I grew up. I was really proud to be Vietnamese, and not American,
Mhm.
because I was like, I'm Vietnamese. Like I want to go Vietnam. I want to see this. Like I'm just full blooded Vietnamese.
Mhm.
But as I grew older, I became more proud to be American Vietnamese.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was the other way around. But you know, I feel like it's important for both culture, like Christmas,
Yeah.
Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
like all of that is important for like to bring down to your kids.
Yeah.
So I treat it both the same.
Yeah. It's hard because, you know, in politics and whatnot, they they want to basically include us in everything, but in the way that people speak, you still refer to us as like Asians. They still refer to Hispanics as Hispanics. It's never just Americans, you right?
Yeah,
So
we might as well be considered as Chinese more. Like they just think we're Chinese, all of us. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So it's tough, but we gotta navigate our way through that and not let the noise kind of like deter us from doing everything we're doing, you know. Um, but I'm glad that things have taken a turn for the better, and you know, especially in the West Coast, you know, the Asian culture and stuff is being celebrated more, um, being more accepted, things like that. Even though everything else is going on in the world, you know what I mean. But yeah, we definitely got to stick together, but also contribute to everyone that's not in our circle as well, you know, so we can change the perspective, right?
hmm How do you feel about, the Vietnamese Chicanos in Vietnam doing tattoos and adapting that culture?
Mm, I'm not opposed to it because I feel like everyone should, you know, express themselves the way they want to express themselves. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, Chicano culture in Japan as well, just like, you know, everywhere else in the world they're celebrating like Korean culture and
hmm
things like that. But there is a fine line that you shouldn't cross that would be considered like disrespectful or whatnot. You know what I
hmm
mean? So I'm not going to say whether or not what they're doing is right or wrong. It's just more of a matter of paying respects and, you know, acknowledging the people who paved the way for them to do that,
hmm
right? So whether it's, you know, inviting people over there that are Hispanic, you know, so they can get to know them and, you know, basically give them the okay, right?
hmm
Um, but yeah, it's definitely different, and it shows me that Vietnam is kind of modernizing a lot more.
hmm
Because back then, if a bunch of dudes like that showed up, it's
hmm
just,
It ain't gonna work.
yeah, it ain't gonna happen, right?
I mean, I feel like, the community around there might look at them different, but they're still carrying on what they believe.
Hmm.
So I really respect them a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
So as long as they don't contribute to a negative stigma,
hmm
personality wise, or you know, bringing down society in any way, then it can only heighten the culture. You know what I mean?
I see a lot of Hispanics, Chicanos, in the comments. They're really proud and happy that another
Hmm.
culture adapted their culture. So
Yeah.
I see it as a pretty cool thing situation. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, so what motivated you or inspired you, or how did you even think or start of writing a book?
So writing my book was spontaneous as well. You know, one day I've been thinking about it for a long time because I've always been a writer. You know what I mean? I never thought about getting into it professionally, but
Hey, y'all gotta believe him when he say he's a writer, cause this guy will fucking write a fucking paragraph or essay, but it'll sound so good, bro. Like he's a really good writer.
yeah. So I when I went to college, one of my first classes, my first semester was argument and rhetoric. So my second day in class, after one assignment, the professor was like, "Dennis, you ever consider a career in journalism?" And I was like, "Hell no." You know what I mean? That wasn't even like a thing. But I definitely took my accumulation of those writing skills over the years, elementary, middle school, high school, college, whatever, and it actually helped me a lot during my professional life, right? Just contracts, all that stuff, legal content. Um, but yeah, I'd always thought about writing a book, but I never thought that my life was interesting enough to do that, right? So when I started out, I just wanted to do more of a motivational self-help book. But I realized after I started writing, I was like, I can't do this if there's a stranger reading the book who doesn't know who I am. So they need some context. So that self-help book became a memoir, right? But then at the same time, you can't write a memoir about just one point in your life because everything that I've done, they all kind of come together to create who I am. So I kind of had to try to expedite it, the chapters, so that people can get a glimpse on it without having to like live through it. So I wrote the first half of the book in a week.
Mm.
So that's like, I don't know,
How
30,
many
40,000 words.
how many pages is that?
Um, Double space is probably like 130, 140 pages.
Damn. How did you squeeze it in and balance out everything else and do that,
I
bro?
just I just did it at night,
Uh,
really late.
Oh, okay.
But my schedule's always been crazy because when I started tattooing, I was working from like 7 a.m. to like 3 in the morning the next day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of calloused my momentum like that, and so I don't mind late nights. I don't mind early mornings. So I did that. I wrote that first half in a week, and then I started my nonprofit. So I took a break. I took
Mm-hmm.
a break for a year, and the last half it actually took me a really long time because I was stuck. Because the middle of the book kind of deals with like a weird time in my life, so it took me a while to kind of absorb it and be able to translate it into words so people can kind of feel what I felt. And that took me like 4 months. And then as soon as I finished that, um, I was like thinking about who's going to publish it. I was trying to do all this research on, what I had to do to get, somebody to take a look. And then at one point I was just like, F it. I'm just going to start my own publishing company. So I did.
Mm.
So I started my own publishing company and I published my own book.
Mm. Would you say there's a lot of steps you have to do to make that happen?
The book or the publishing company?
Both.
It's just a lot of research,
Mm.
And the book is more like you work directly with an editor. So sometimes it's difficult because what you want to portray and what the editor is used to editing isn't the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
My editor was great. She was actually a client of mine. She's a professor at Miracosta College too. But the way I write is like cinematic in my mind. So some chapters, basically, I would end it on a happy note, and then the next chapter would be like something crazy happened at the beginning. But that's how my life was. It was like a roller coaster. So I wanted people to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
But like when it comes to literature, that's not the norm.
Mm-hmm.
So there's points where I had to make decisions, and there's points where I took her advice, and it's just a back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the publishing company, it's not hard to do. It's a lot of paperwork, a lot of filing stuff, getting ISBNs, which is kind of like barcodes for your book, and making sure you know who to work with. Because like on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all that, and distribution is just it's a little difficult.
So to do all that, that's why you need the publishing.
The
Right.
company,
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that book you could go Barnes and Noble like
Mhm.
right now and buy it
Online, yeah.
online.
Mhm. Amazon's the easiest way to buy it. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's Memento, Embracing the Darkness by Dizzy Doan.
Hey, y'all make sure y'all check out that book, man. Is everything about his whole life, right? Everything, man. That's not an easy task, so I believe he deserves a round of applause for that. Shout out to Hung Nasty, shout out to Slick, Farmers Cup, man. They're right here running the back end for me and Dizzy right now. So journalism. What does that word mean to you?
Journalism,
Hmm.
it's just stating the facts. You know what I mean? Stating the facts in a way that people can comprehend. You know what I mean? Um, a lot of people nowadays, they like to listen or watch things that they agree with, whether it's intentionally or not, or whether they're like programmed to accept it, right? Because we're not. Well, the generation after this, they're kind of a little more sensitive. When things don't go their way, or there's something they don't agree with, they automatically dismiss it, right? But the reality is, we got to take the good and the bad, and then we got to figure it out, man. We can't just listen to one end and not the other. You don't solve any problems that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it means to me. It's just the truth without opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, like back then, like during like the war and stuff like that, when you hear journalism, I felt like it wasn't a completely positive thing because not a lot of people want to be journalism. Like if you ask them, "Are you journalism?" You're like,
Mm-hmm.
"No." But now, when you look, let's just say if you watch Vlad or you watch all these podcasts, do
Mm-hmm.
you consider that journalism?
I would say yes. I would say yes. Even though it's opinionated, as long as they make the commitment to interview people on both sides of the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
that's where it matters. You know what I mean? So people can hear both sides of the story, so people can open their minds to, especially with long conversations where you can't get that on the news, right? So
Exactly.
you can never really get to know somebody in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But how you see somebody from the outside looking in versus actually digging into their story and listening to them talk is like two totally different things, right? Because like me and you on the street, we'll probably get pulled over walking down the street, but it's like no one takes a moment to see like the person behind the face, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's important, man.
Hell yeah. So that's what I see. I see it as now as more like normalized, and actually everybody's a journalism right now. Like all the shit content and all this shit to me it somehow connects to that phrase.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's important because Asians, we don't have a lot of platforms at all. Like
Mm-hmm.
you hear an Asian rapper, but do you really know that Asian rapper? Like
Yeah.
when you heard my music, you just know so much of my lyrics, but
Uh-huh.
like what I like to eat, how I think, what
Yeah.
my next steps are, you probably
Yeah.
won't know. So that's why I feel like this will help bridge that a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I get to have people like you come and inspire the next generation with your story and motivation.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it's really important that people know that, for a long time, San Diego wasn't really considered a hub for Vietnamese Americans or anything. It's always Orange County. And then me and you, we've been trying really hard to bridge the gap between OC and San Diego right now with, the collaborations we're doing, the people we're working with.
Hmm.
And it makes a difference because they're pretty much paving the way to, the things that Vietnamese Americans didn't normally dabble in, right? So whether it's, clothing lines or podcasts or whatever. So I think that's important that we unite in that way
Hmm.
rather than, stay in our little bubble down here and play it safe, right?
Hmm.
Because most of the time, what stops you from doing what you think would be good for everything is the the feeling that you won't have an impact, right?
Hmm.
But a lot of people spend so much time being worried or being scared of the reception that they're wasting time they could have spent working on it in the first place, right? So I think it's really cool what you're doing, and I know it's gonna make an impact, especially bringing people together from all walks of life.
Yeah, yeah. Like when I first like did music, it was like frowned upon, like back in the days. But now it's like a whole new ball game because you got like Vietnam accepting it, Thailand accepting it, Japan accepting it.
Mm-hmm.
So like now it's a whole different ball game, especially for the Asian community.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like, but we need more platforms
Yeah.
for the next generation because there's really no platforms for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really important for me. That's why I asked you about culture, carrying on the tradition, education, building platforms, journalism. Uh, so I'm trying to incorporate everything to basically help build a platform for the next generation. Eventually, I'm trying to turn all this into like a radio station, TV show,
Sick.
because it's all different shows. And how can we, if there's talent right now, right, that wants to be a part of your event, how
Mhm.
can they go about that?
We're full right now with the performers. I actually have this youth breakdancing group performing too. But if they want to come for next year, just go on the website, shoot up one of the emails, and we'll talk about it. Figure out where you can go, and yeah, we'll have you on mine.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of like young talents coming right now. Like I see a young girl named Layana. She's
Yeah,
10
yeah,
years old,
hmm
rapping.
yeah,
There's also a young girl named Sophie. She dance.
hmm
Um, I will be so happy to see them next year or the
yeah. No, I
following
think
year.
Leanna is actually performing with the breakdancing group
Oh,
too.
okay,
I'm not
that's
sure. Her mom contacted me not too long ago. She works with them as well.
okay.
Yeah, because Find a City Dance with Aeronetic, the Doan Foundation sponsored their youth breaking competition a few months ago. So we had kind of like, a back and forth, and we want to work together. And,
Mm.
I'll be making a donation to them again at the event as well, just to keep it going. Because a lot of these dance studios, that are smaller, that are really doing a lot to help the youth community, they don't really get the recognition they deserve. You know what I mean? So I just want to, give them their flowers and just let them know that we support them. And yeah, I mean that's what it takes. You got to lead the way in order for people to follow, and then it just becomes a thing of its own, right?
Yeah, it takes unity. It took us a while to have this type of unity, but now it's getting so much better. Like before, everything was like competition, or you do your own thing, I do mine.
Mm-hmm.
Like same with businesses, same with rappers,
Mm-hmm.
artists. I'm pretty sure it's all the same. But now that unity, like let's say your event,
Mm-hmm.
boom, there's all different businesses there, and they're gonna talk with each other,
Yeah.
networking. So it's a lot different right now, and we just have to continue like pushing that issue until it gets there. It's almost there, but it's not there yet.
Yeah, it's especially with Asian culture, you know how it is. It's always like, especially with parents, like saving face or don't do this or why are you doing this. Like when I started my nonprofit, my parents were just kind of like, why are you doing that for?
Hmm.
So I was like, because I want to, you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? But it's not something that is normal to them, It's kind of like keep to yourself, do your own thing, worry about your own family, and that's it, Don't involve yourself in politics, all that.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially when I had an interview a few years ago with a really prominent Vietnamese news anchor from Baltimore, and she was like the biggest news radio host in the 70s in Vietnam or something. And my parents were all scared, like, oh, don't say anything, they're gonna come after our family or whatever. I'm like,
Hmm.
it ain't that serious. But that interview was interesting because the whole thing was like in Vietnamese. It
Hmm.
was like 2 hours, right?
Mm. See, I want to interview like our parents or older people,
Hmm.
and tell like their experience.
Yeah,
But they're also scared to even speak about it.
yeah.
I don't know if it's because it's political or because embarrassment, or it could be both or more to it?
It's just tradition, man. Like we were just taught to keep quiet and
But
do our
I
thing.
I think now is the time to actually teach or show, or what they experienced and went through, because
Mhm.
it's important, bro. Like, what if
Yeah,
they don't tell us now when they're gone? We're gonna be the one to tell it, and we can't tell it like them, like they
yeah,
actually went through it. So that's why I feel like, man, I just wish that I could get some of them in here,
hmm
and then I want to get that out to the audience, the new
yeah,
generation.
yeah. They're always really hesitant. Every time, like, let's say I ask my dad about something, it's always like little bits and pieces at a
Mm-hmm.
time, and you got to
Yeah,
put it together, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's like that with their generation. I think this next one's a little better. Maybe our older siblings or something can compensate for that, but it's really hard because it's like pre-programmed. They don't like talk about it, and that's how they dealt with the PTSD back then.
Mm-hmm.
Like my dad was alcoholic for a long time. It's just, but every time he gets drunk, he started talking about Vietnam, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just how they dealt with it. That's what they're used to. They don't like change. They just want to keep themselves and do their thing. So I think it's gonna take a while, but there's people taking initiative to bring that out of them. Like I'm a community partner with this nonprofit called Vietnamese Boat People Podcast in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and she just came out with like a book where you can talk to your parents easier, and like some note cards where there's questions and you guys can connect. And she's interviewing people all over the United States and their parents about their stories and kind of keeping a record of it. And then I also worked with a she's basically a professional librarian from archivist, she's called, from University of San Marcos. And I did a 2 hour interview with her, and basically it was just me talking about my life for like 2 hours, and she's putting these stories together in an archive, like official archive for San Marcos, and it will be there for like research and things like that. So I think it's cool there's people doing that, but we all need to take a step and push it a little harder and put some more pressure on the families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm working on it, and I'm confident I could get one soon, but I'm still pushing for that.
hmm
Um, have you been to Vietnam?
Yeah, I've been there twice.
When was the last time you went there?
It's been a minute. 2009.
2009. Oh wow.
hmm
Okay, it's probably changed a lot, bro.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I went in '05 and then again in '09. So '05 I went there. It was my first time ever on an airplane too.
Mm.
And I flew by myself.
Oh.
Yeah, so my brother couldn't catch the same flight, so he met me there like 30 minutes later, but it was like hella scary.
Yeah, it was a long flight, bro.
Yeah.
If you had 5 things to tell young Dennis Dizzy Doan at 18, what would you tell him right now?
18. I would say don't spend your money on dumb stuff. You know what I mean? Prepare, cause everything. If I had $100, I spent $100. Whether it's like,
You might spend 150 and just owe the
yeah,
50 too. Like, that's
yeah.
what we do.
So nobody taught us about credit and all that and how it messes you up.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working on spending money on buying parts for my car, just tattoo equipment, things like that. It's just dumb when you think back on it. You know what I mean? Um, it's just all material stuff because growing up in the hood, like that's all you strive for, right? So we want that new thing that puts us one step above another. I mean, my first Benz was like a 93 S class, like the mafia car.
But
So
how do you feel after you got it and drove? You felt like Scarface, though.
yeah, but it was a 93 and it was already 2000 freaking 13 or
Oh, yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
So it's like you just hood rich at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I mean, you're a hero in the hood with that, but it's kind of like in reality, it's just a thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, I kept thinking it was gonna make me happy to buy new things, so I kept buying newer cars, putting myself in deeper debt, and it ended up working against me, and I had to dig myself out.
Mm.
Right? I was spending like, I was trying to make a point because I was underestimated for so long. Like I always got pulled over by the cops for no reason. I always got looked down upon in restaurants, you know. So when I first started making money, I was going to restaurants spending like $400, and I'll tip them $400 too, so
Mm-hmm.
they'll remember who I am. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, every time I came in, it was like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Doan, like we have your table ready.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same table you got last time, whatever, right?"
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool, but what did it do for me? Nothing. Then I had to keep that persona up, right? So
Mm-hmm.
every time I came, I had to tip them 100%, 100%,
Mm-hmm.
and like you know, I just I just spent so much money on things that didn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's why I started my foundation, pretty much.
Mm. Okay, so if there was 5 things that you could say you're really proud of from Dennis Dizzy Doan, what would that be?
I'm proud of the fact that my struggles kind of basically prepared me for everything else in life. You know what I mean? It's really hard to it's really hard to for anything to affect me because I've already been through most of it, right? So I don't mind failing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so concerned about failing as I'm concerned about not having something to fail from,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I like that I did enough things, well rounded enough to navigate my way through life, no matter what industry I go through. Like right now, I can do graphic design. You know, I can run a nonprofit now. I can manage a business, all that, and that's all like, you know, it came from nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you have to start from scratch, you have to learn every little thing that it takes to build that up. Just like, you know, you want to start a tattoo shop, you gotta learn how to like lay tile. You gotta learn plumbing, learn how to paint a wall. You gotta learn how to navigate your way through site plans, health department, all that. So you know, every little step it takes, it builds you into a stronger person, right? Whereas nowadays, most people try to dodge those obstacles and just take the easy way out and watch a YouTube video or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So even though, just like with, you know, your music career, you came in when there wasn't a lot of Asian rappers yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it took you longer to grow, but you went through everything you needed. Like you acquired and you forged the tools that you needed to get there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So no matter what happens, they can't break you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what I'm most proud of, is just like the well-roundedness and what I went through. I would never regret that. You know what I mean? I don't hold anything against my family for not supporting me or anybody that didn't, but um, I think ultimately what led to my success was just proving everybody wrong.
Mm. We had the same drive, the same motivation.
You know?
Yeah, that's what's up, man. You know, the Vietnamese community is very small. So I'm pretty sure everybody sees you, and everybody's proud of you. Um, you know,
Appreciate it.
like you inspired us to invest in ourselves, um, even from the bottom, even with no results shown. You kept it pushing, and to this day, look where you're at right now. I think the whole community is proud of you, bro, and I think he deserves a round of applause for that. You know, so when you look at Dennis Dizzy Doan, he's just not just a tattoo artist. He's not just an author. He's not just an art commissioner in San Diego. Um, he's like motivation to our community. Um, it's bigger than words. I can't really explain it. He has a lot of titles, but you know, he inspires me a lot from his grind, from his determination. He just has uh, that vibe with him the whole way that I knew him. Look, right now he's throwing events. The next one is May 25th, so y'all be sure if it's not sold out yet. So y'all gotta, you know, attend that. You get to network, you get to see other businesses, you get to meet artists, you get to meet all types of people over there. Um, but other than that, bro, like I want to play you one of my songs, and I want to see because it's different. I know you listened
Okay.
to me from
Okay.
back then, right?
Yeah.
And I want to see what you think of me now. Uh, but now, like I told you, like it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
We're accepted everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to let the next generation know, like, don't be ashamed
Yeah.
of your culture. Like, you can make it sound cool.
Yeah.
So that's my mind state when I make music now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna play you this shit I just wrote the other day. Mấy tụi nó giờ đây gas blood in không đừng ra không thấy tao can't see me như là ma tao là người Việt Nam but you been know bitch I been put on for my people since the intro yeah I'm putting on the map Vietnamese you know the info phải Vietnamese but sao when chase the Benzo 247 365 trying to ball like trái banh keep it 100 là 100 yeah I'm him I'm the one từ Đà Nẵng tới Sài Gòn California to Hanoi bitch we been on it's Vietnamese boy now you can't see us, ay, even instrumentals can't beat us. It's a cold world, we staying dangerous. Ta rất thích tầm 100, nó màu xanh da trời. Blue Vietnamese thug, lúc tao bước ra đời. Nếu bồ đà ngon thì tao hút một hơi. Mấy tụi nó muốn dẫn chơi, but I'm a crazy Vietnamese. Người Việt Nam muôn đời. So I go more shit like that
Yeah,
now.
that's good.
So that's like really my style now that I'm trying to reformat the image. And that's the type of shit that I'm pushing out right now. So
that's good, man. It's just good to dabble in like other styles and adapt other ways to do things. You know, a lot of people are afraid of doing that. You know,
they are. So that's why I want to, try to step in and be like, don't be afraid, be comfortable. Like this is dope. So that's like my whole goal right now.
Yeah, and that all comes back to being well-rounded. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're able to adapt to whatever style it is. If you did a feature on somebody else's track, you already know you can match their vibe, their rhythm, all that. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I felt like a good artist the whole way, but I always felt like I could be better.
Yeah.
But music changes like every 5 years, and if you don't grow and adapt with it, you're not gonna survive in the music game at all. So right now, there's a whole new ball game. Just hold on to your culture, be proud. You got people like artists like him, tattoo artist, Arthur, like you guys have to be inspired, bro. Like he works hard to get to that stage now. And right now, this is his story. And this is my story is in the same thing, but we're on like different majors. Like he's an artist, tattoo artist. I'm a rapper type of thing. But now I'm trying to, make podcasts. He's doing charity, those events for scholarships. We're just trying to move forward and build a better ground for the next generation. So y'all give him a round of applause. And we have to give a shout out to today's sponsor, is SMOKERZ. If you guys ever local in town or out of state, y'all need some gas, hit them up. We also got our other sponsor, $Apparel, which I want to give Dizzy a hat. Do you like black or cream?
Let's do black.
Let's do black. Here you go,
Thank you,
man.
sir.
There you go, man.
Appreciate it.
That's from $Apparel. Man, y'all give them a round of applause for having Dizzy in here. Hey, we appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come stop by and talk to us. You didn't have to, but I know what it means to you to inspire the next generation. Because I see all the moves you're doing. I think this is the beginning, and it's going to be bigger and bigger. And I want to wish you much success in your tattoo and whatever you want to do. But I see all your moves, bro, and I'm like really proud and inspired.
Appreciate you having me.
Are you gonna? Did you want to say any last things about any moves that you're coming out, or anything that the audience need to pay some attention to that's coming?
Just keep a lookout on the programs that we're gonna end up doing for these kids. We can raise all the money we want and create all these things, but if there's no kids that are alerted of it or get involved, then what's the point? So what we're really trying to do right now is just get the San Diego City schools to kind of get involved and just put it out there, like the counselors and whatnot. So if you feel your kids trying to get into the arts industry, the careers, then just have them reach out and apply for our scholarships and tell their story or whatnot. We're gonna try to be doing some different type of events in the next few years, so just keep a lookout.
Hell yeah, bro. Keep pushing it, bro. Eventually they're not gonna have a choice but to either support it or not support it. But it has to be a choice. So just keep pushing it. I'm on the same path as you, so I understand and I relate to everything that you do. It might be a different business, but it's the same path that we're trying to go on. And other than that, man, until next time, man, y'all see the interview and Beyond the Surface with G, bro. Let's get a round of applause. Peace.